Hey guys, so I'm back with another process video, and today is Friday, which means I'm going to be using my stamped backgrounds again. So this time I'm going to use this floral pattern in a different way than last time. So last time I used it as a whole chunk of paper on a layer on my page, and today I'm going to punch it out in hearts and create something with it. So I did print my photo out in black and white because I didn't want to. I was planning to use a lot of color, and I chose this photo just because it's the only photo that I could turn into black and white, because all my other photos that I have at the moment I really want to do in color. So I did want to have the freedom of using whatever colors I wanted on this one. So I'm trying a couple of different designs with my hearts here to see where I want to place them. So my first idea was to do a diagonal kind of stripe. And I did briefly think that I wasn't gonna color the hearts after all, because I did really like the way the black and white on the white, but I decided I'm going to color them because yeah, anyway. So I'm going to use a bunch of distressings here. I did pull out the tumbled glass to begin with, and what I'm doing, I thought I could use my paintbrush, but that's just taking too long and there's too much water on the heart and it's morphing it. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a slab of ink onto the packaging, adding some water, and then kind of like dipping the heart into it. So the colors I'm using, I used the blue is tumbled glass distress ink. The green is a distress oxide and twisted citron, and the coral reddish color is abandoned coral in a distress ink. And then I'm also using mustard seed in a distress ink. And then I thought I could paint a couple of these with a paintbrush and my acrylic ink, because that painting stuff over with that color is really cool. Like, I mean, if you were to paint like chipboard or something with acrylic ink, it would work marvelously, I believe. And then I also wanted a pink, but the problem was I didn't have any pink distress inks, and I wanted a watercolor effect. I don't have any pink watercolor either. So what I'm gonna do is really water down pink acrylic. And the reason that I had to water it down is because if I were to use it as it is, it will cover up the stamping on the hearts. So yeah, and then I thought it would be cool to add some splatter on the hearts. So I just took my acrylic ink in white and just splattered like crazy on the hearts. So the colors I chose for the hearts were based primarily on this polka dot pattern here, and this is from the Lovely Day collection by Dear Lizzie. So I did want to use this collection on this page because I haven't used this collection as a collection really since I got it. I did include some things in kits and such, but I really wanted to use this kit, which is also why I turned the photo into black and white and made my own hearts with the color, because the colors in this collection I find are really hard to match with other things. It's just based on my stash, because this is a different color scheme than other product that I own. So anyway, so then I placed the hearts on a diagonal and I wasn't really loving it, so I'm gonna try a couple different things. Now I did pull out a bunch of papers from the 6x6 paper pad from the Dear Lizzie Lovely Day collection. So I'm kind of keeping those in mind. Now, the way I had the hearts to the side and the photo on the other side, it looked like I was making two different layouts, so I didn't like that. I needed the elements to be connected somehow. So then I thought I could do like this chevron kind of thing with the hearts. That was just not good. And then I went back to the diagonal. Then I thought maybe I could do a wreath. Sort of look like just a circle with the hearts, and I actually really like that. So what I'm gonna do is take all the hearts off and bring back the same colors that I used earlier to color the hearts to make a wreath with my paints. I'm not adding any gesso on the background just because I wasn't in the mood to, for the most part, so I'm being very careful with the amount of water I'm adding onto the page. And also the fact that I didn't add gesso gives me a lot more control over where the paint is gonna go. So when there's no gesso, the paint will sink directly into the page, and that way it's not gonna move a lot before it dries. So I can really control where it's gonna go. So what I've done here is I've added a bunch of different colors to create a very messy circle, and then I'm also going to just add a bunch of splatter on top. So when I bring over the hearts though, it's going to look really cool. It's not going to look so messy. So yeah, most of the time I will use gesso, but for this particular layout, I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. I mostly was because I was not in the mood to use it. I wasn't in the mood to wait for it to dry, but it did turn out really cool actually without using the gesso, and it also that has a really clean look because you can't see the gesso behind the photo and such. So yeah, so now I've placed all the hearts on this wreath, and I tried to put a different color over the color that was on the background. So if I had green, I tried to put a not green heart on top. I didn't pay too much attention with the colors. I just tried to not have two of the same color heart next to each other, and also I didn't want to have the same color as the background and the heart on each other. So here I'm just going to cut down my layers. So I have that yellow piece was already cut down, so I'm just going to use it as it is. And then I'm using a piece of that polka dot paper that inspired the whole thing, and a piece of green to bring in a bit of green in the layers. And I really wanted to use this coral piece to bring in the coral that I have in the background. That is mostly why I used the abandoned coral distress ink, to use that paper and some other coral elements on that's in the collection. But I'm struggling with where I want to put that layer, because I don't want to make the layers too big, because I do want the photo to be tucked in on the side of the wreath. So I don't want the layers to be too big and too distracting. I want to be able to easily move it around. So I'm struggling with where I want to put it. I'm going to decide that I want to put it on horizontally, and that the coral paper is going to go beneath the hearts, and then yeah, the coral paper is kind of going to go beneath the hearts in the background, which you'll see here in a bit, and then the photo cluster is going to sit on top. Now, I did go ahead and glue down all the hearts with the exception of the ones that are surrounding the photo, so I can kind of play around with what I want to do. So see, I'm covering the coral piece with the hearts, and then the photo is going to be placed on top. Now, the bottom couple of hearts are also going to overlap the photo just a bit, just because I wanted the photo to look like it was inside the wreath and not on top of it. So first thing I'm going to do is going to go through all the pieces that I have from this collection. So one of them was the chipboard set here, and there was some cool phrases that I thought I might want to use, but all of them had this hot pink color, which I thought really clashed with the coral that I have going on, so I decided not to use any of those. Instead, I did find a bunch of these flowers, so I'm going to place them on various different spots. So my original thought was to kind of have a lot of different things going on in the wreath, and then also have embellishing around the photo. The part of the wreath is not gonna the wreath is not gonna be embellished almost at all, but the photo is. So I am going to use a couple of those florals. So I'm keeping them over to the side there, so I can easily, so I can remember that I like them there. So I'm going to glue down that coral piece straight onto the background, and then I'm going to glue down these hearts. Now, the problem with gluing down these hearts is that I have to use this glue pen, which isn't really for gluing heavy duty stuff. But the only other option of adhesive that I have at the moment is double-sided tape, and I do not want to cut double-sided tape for all of these hearts and just so I was going with the glue pen, and I'm hoping that they will stay on, or if they don't stay on, I'm hoping that at least they will stay on until maybe I can get some better adhesive to glue them down. And I'm also going to glue down this whole photo cluster back there, and I did glue it down on a slight angle at the beginning of this process, but I am going to shift it over to make it a bit more straight at some point. I think it's mostly towards the end. So now I'm also going through the die cuts and the cutter parts from the 6x6 paper pad, and I'm going to just separate them out to things that I think I might want to use on here and things that I know I will for sure not want to use. So I'm avoiding all hot pink colors for this because I did not want to bring that color on here. I think it clashed too much with the coral and the kind of baby pink that I have in some of the hearts here. So I do have 2 of the florals on the sides of the photo, and then I also have one up there in the wreath. So I really like these banners, but I was having trouble incorporating them on here because I wanted the photo and the clusters of the photo to kind of go within the wreath. So they had to be like on the circular track that the wreath kind of gave them, and kind of looked like they were tucked behind the wreath as opposed to really on top of the wreath. So those banners were just making this too linear, I guess. Okay, so then I also pulled out this chipboard wood, which I wasn't entirely sure about using. And I kind of wanted to color it, but I was kind of scared too because it's the last word that I have of this set, and I really, really love these words. But I did test the colors a bit on the packaging, and now I'm going to color some of these in. So my original plan was to do a sort of ombre effect from like coral to pink to perhaps a bit of white, but I'm going to change my mind on that pretty soon. So first I'm going to just coat the whole thing in the pink acrylic paint, the same acrylic paint I used for the hearts. I didn't water it down though, I'm just using it. And the acrylic paint is a great medium to use to color the chipboard and stuff. This is the first time actually that I colored one of these chipboard pieces for a layout. And that's why I was a bit scared because it was my last one. And then I did have some residue paint, so I thought I might as well just add some splatter on the back with some pink as well. And I didn't really like that pink. I do like it, but I feel like it's clashing too much with that orange corally kind of color in the flower there. So I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to come back to it and modify it a bit more. So now I'm starting to go to like the tiny little details. So I'm bringing out some of these hearts from that Pinterest Studio set in the pink color, and I'm also going to use them in the sort of navy color here in just a bit, and just kind of layer them around the wreath and in my cluster. So I'm going to have a couple up there with that floral. I'm going to have a couple over to the side, and then I'm going to add one next to the flower, next to the flower next to the photo, and then a couple by the tag that I have going on. And now what am I doing? So I think, okay, so now I just glued everything down with some tape, mostly because I just wanted to keep everything in place, and those were larger pieces in the hearts. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the abandoned coral ink, I'm going to add a bunch of it onto a piece of packaging, and just add the tiniest amount of water just so I can swish it around a bit easier. But I'm trying to get as much pigment as I can on this. And now by doing that, I have the pink undertone, but then I also have this really cool coral color on top, and I really like the color of that. The problem is it's still clashing a bit with that floral, but I'm going to live with it because that title also brings in the coral from that paper and the mixed media, but it also brings in a bit of the pink. And I think it just matched the layout really, really nicely. It was just placed next to this floral that has a bit more of an orangey kind of look, which is what was troubling me there for a bit. And then I did decide to put a couple of these buttons in the center of the flowers, and I actually really like how that looks because the one of them covers up the hot pink that was on the flower, and then the other one just also has some hot pink on it, but it's a really close match to the color that I have on the chipboard piece. So another thing I did on that chipboard, I do kind of just break it down, have it incorporate a bit more, is I added some white splatter on it as well. So now I have white splatter on everything. I added white splatter on the hearts before I glued it down, then I added white splatter on the background, and now I have some on that chipboard piece. Now I did feel like this page needed a little something, and then I remember that I had this 12 by 12 piece of paper that was this corally kind of color. It wasn't exactly a coral, but it matched they just matched the whole thing really well. So it's from the Lovely Day collection. I do not remember the name of it at the moment, but I do have the branding strip. So if anybody is interested in what that paper is called, I will be more than happy to find that out. So leave me a comment and I'll let you know. So here I'm just gonna re-glue some things because they were detached, and just attach the whole mat on the layout, and that's going to complete the layout. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll have pictures of them on Instagram, and I will see you tomorrow.